And thank you, Scott, very much. Just a little background on me. I have been working as a mental health specialist in this field for probably 17, 18 years. I am a mental health supervisor. I am a trauma therapist. I am a certified sex addiction therapist supervisor. I work with families, couples, clients individually. My past history has been many different types of treatment centers. I've been in substance abuse therapy for being a therapist. How about that? For many, many years. So I fit in well to the organization that we work for, and very honored to be sitting here in place of Dr. Fawcett tonight, though I am not Dr. Fawcett, as you can tell. So one of the things that I'd like to talk about tonight or put out there, and feel free to ask questions, or as you were told, we can't give therapy advice or things such as that, but I think it's an interesting topic. When you have a family member, you may be a parent, you may be a loved one, a sister or brother, it may be that you're a spouse or partner of someone that is suffering from these addictions of any type, or you're a betrayed spouse or partner because the person that you are with is somebody that's acting out sexually or chemsex-wise, and that's why we call it a betrayed spouse or partner. So it's very much also a group of people that I work with. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what age you are. We're human beings, and we want to help the people we love, though sometimes we can get frustrated and angry and scared, just petrified of, will the person I love make it? Will they change? Will something be different? So in starting with the betrayed partner or spouse, I'd like to go over a few things that I typically see is if Scott and I were with one another and he's acting out sexually and I find out, the very first thing that I am going to be thrown into is what is trauma. I'm shocked. I'm in awe. I cannot believe that this person has betrayed me by having an affair, a one-night stand, what we call a hookup. They're on online dating sites, chatting. Any of those type of behaviors that may be an emotional affair where I'm confiding in him with, he's confiding in another woman about his feelings about me, his own life, the things that really help a relationship become intimate. And that's that bonding component, that's that trusting component. So I'm thrown into a trauma place. What I see many times is the very first thing somebody will do is they are definitely in shock and awe. So they may go inside and ask themselves, what did I do wrong? Am I not good enough? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not smart enough? All the not enough kind of things that may come up. And again, this is not for everybody. It's just a lot of what I see and have seen throughout the years. The next step that can occur quickly is anger, because it's anger with fear underneath. It's frustration. It's the disbelief of, have I ever really known this person? Has he or she been telling me the truth the entire time we've been together? Or is this just another side of someone that I've never known? So I am challenging myself at that point in time, and I am angry and sad, and again, all the responses that we see when a traumatic event occurs. Usually what we ask people to do is to seek help so that they can be supported in a safe way while they're going through this process. Now, usually families don't want to tell secrets, okay? People don't want one another to know. I don't want anybody to know that Scott is cheating on me. What will they think? Will they think bad of me? Maybe these are our friends together, and I want to keep it all silent. Or I'm going to blast it to the world, one or the other. Usually it's one end or the other. And we work as therapists, we work to help that betrayed partner or spouse work with healing themselves. It is not their fault. They are not accountable for the behavior of their loved ones. Though we're connected, we are not accountable. The client is, or the addict is accountable for what they do. And sometimes the anger can be blaming when it comes back on a spouse or partner. And it's, again, I will say, it's never, we address what the client's issues are and what's going on with them. So that's usually how that process works. It can be that couples may get back together again after a while and then find out that there's something else going on again. That still throws them right back into a trauma response. They're not past the first one. It's still inside their brain. It's still inside their heart. They're still wondering, what if? What's next? I'm asked many, many times, can my loved one be helped? Can they get help for this? Can they be, quote, fixed from it? My response is always going to be, an addict can get help when they want to get help, and they can find recovery if they want to be in recovery. And we work hard to make sure in any type of facility or any therapist you're dealing with is working hard to make sure they are connected with other people that they can share any of their thoughts with and things such as that. But to stay in recovery and not to be acting out along the way. Now that means substance abuse. That means substance and sex. That's why Dr. Fawcett is out speaking about chemsex, the connection, the fusion between the chemicals. Most of the time it's coke or meth, but not all the time, and the sexual acting out behavior, because they catapult somebody ahead in the sexual behavior. So we work on all of that together. I've seen people that have been in recovery for many years. They go back to a different addiction, and I talked a few weeks ago about cross addictions. So today I just want to put out there that that it is trauma in its most real form when you find out that somebody has been acting out and you thought you knew that person and were surprised and now mistrust everything. Again, the common question is, how will I ever know? How will I ever trust this person again? And I really always say, you need to get help for yourself, not because of that person's behavior, but so that you can find some peace inside to know what to do, how to become stronger and be able to talk to people and say what you need to say that's going on versus stuffing it inside or going to alternative methods to be able to medicate that pain. Many times we see people in addictions of any type that there's a history somewhere in their lifetime of trauma. It may be sexual abuse. It may be they're shown pornography at a very, very, very young age, 5, 6, 7 years old, which is really the beginning of their sexual experience. So it's looking at a client not from just what they're presenting, but looking at what's inside of them, what has been going on with them that leads them down this path. And I really do believe there is hope and there is help, as one of our, Scott and our dearest friends, always reminds everyone of, there is hope and there is help. And there is hope and help for the addict, the family member, the spouse, the partner, the betrayed spouse or partner. There is help for that. You do not have to go through this alone. So, anything you want to add to that, Scott?
I think that's a great summary. For those of you who joined us late, Karen and we're talking about families and partners of addicts and how they're impacted and you know, the trauma they experience. So I don't have much to add, but I do have some questions.
Sure.
A lot of things. And by the way, feel free to ask your own questions. Use the Q&A feature down at the bottom of the screen or the chat feature, which is not as anonymous. You mentioned emotional affairs. Can you just kind of highlight a little bit? Because I think particularly men, we don't understand what emotional affairs are. Women get it.
Right. Right.
But the guys were just, I was just flirting, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I was just flirting. I wasn't, I was just having a conversation. In a
You're just a
healthy
friend.
relationship, yeah,
Yeah.
just a friend. And we don't mean that way, y'all. I mean, everybody can have friends and things like that. But a healthy, intimate relationship is about people coming together where they're sharing their heart. They're sharing all their thoughts. They're sharing their fears. They're sharing things about their lifetime that are events that have occurred that they've never told anybody about. Because this is my partner. This is who I love. This is who I'm going to be open with and I can trust. So when a partner, spouse, or loved one is connecting with another person and sharing those things, they may be sharing what our intimacy looks like, what our sexual intimacy looks like, maybe sharing things that would be about me to someone else, or their thoughts or feelings about our relationship. It's a form of cheating because you're emotionally cheating with the person that you're in a committed relationship with. So it doesn't have to be physical sex. It does not have to be anything like that. It can be truly an emotional affair. That person becomes my go-to when I'm upset about something. And if Scott was my emotional partner, affair partner, I'd be calling and telling him everything I'm thinking and feeling. So I'm sharing everything about me inside with another person that I'm not in an intimate relationship with. So I'm not going to say it's just a male-female difference. I will say that a lot of times women are very relational, and the biggest part of what they're sharing is themselves and the insides of themselves. It's not about sex. It's about who we are and who we want people to know that we are, and not to have our secrets and talk together and our loved that one another told to the rest of the world. If I want it shared, it should be me that tells somebody what I'm thinking and feeling. Does that help, Scott?
Yeah, I tend to use the windows and walls analogy. My significant other, if I had one, which I don't, but should have a window into my soul. Whereas
Yeah,
my super hot neighbor, there should be a wall there. And
exactly.
if I put a window in the wall to my super hot neighbor, to my soul, even if there's no sex involved, I am cheating. I mean, that is a really intimate thing to, let somebody into your soul. And, as you said, when I'm calling hot neighbor with my hopes and dreams and fears and the stuff I'm angry about and screaming, grousing about my significant other to my hot neighbor, that is an emotional affair. It is cheating.
Exactly.
You talked a lot about loved one. By the way, people ask questions about anything in recovery. I see we've got one already, but I'm going to ask this question real quick. You suggested that partners in particular get help for themselves. And one of the things that I see occasionally and hear about fairly often is, well, why do I have to get help? I'm not the one. I'm not the addict. I didn't screw up our relationship. Why do you want me to go to therapy?
Right.
How do you respond to that?
I'd respond that no, you're not the addict. Absolutely. And anybody that has read Dr. Weiss's book on codependence will also understand that many times in the past, partners were called co-sex addicts or all these different type of names. Well, he's taken a new approach and opened up a window of things of talking about I can love somebody and I can support somebody, but it doesn't mean that I am codependent with them or I'm a co-sex addict. The reason why I suggest people look for help, and that could be help in a 12-step type meeting, that could be help with a therapist, that could be help in a group of people that are sharing the same situation that you're in. Because one, you're not alone. You're not crazy. I hear many different spouses or partners say, I think I'm going crazy. I've got all these thoughts. I'm trying to find out things and dig through it. I've become obsessed with it. Well, it's about helping you have people to talk to so that you can share what's going on inside yourself. And it is trauma. And that's the best way to have it. And when you have a common arena to share that in, whether it's a therapist group or, like I said, a 12-step type group, things such as that. In AA, people use Al-Anon, different things such as that. There's so many different options out there. And, you can go on websites and see many different things that are webinars and things such as that are out there to solicit support and have to know you are understood and you're not alone. It doesn't fix the addict. It can't change what they're doing or how they are. And it's not about you changing who you are. It's about getting support. And I'll keep saying that over and over again because your insides are in turmoil and you're hurting and you're in pain. And when you're in pain, you don't want to be alone. You need to have someone that you can talk to and share that. And again, I mean, if it's a family member and somebody you're close to and you're trusting, as long as it's someone that you've got a way of getting that out.
Yeah, I mean, I think loved ones need to understand that they're not the one with the primary problem, but they've been traumatized and they deserve support. They've been run over by a truck that they weren't driving, and they deserve some support. It's not like they have to go. They get to go. They get to take care of themselves.
It's like the partner or the spouse, you're worth it.
Yeah.
You are worth it. You are good enough. You do deserve to get help and support.
Karen, when you say you're worth it,
you're worth it. Yeah, there you go. But you are, and a lot of times that you want to keep it quiet because you may feel shame if anybody finds out. And again, I'll go back to it depends on what you're feeling and what you're going through at the time. But you are worth having somebody help you in some way and hearing you get out the feelings and emotions that you have. So you deserve it, and you are not the addict that is acting out. You are the partner or spouse or loved one of somebody that is, and support is really important for you.
Okay, we got a question here. Everybody ask questions using the Q&A feature, and we'll get through them as quick as we can. I've been married for 23 years. I found out about my husband's porn addiction 1 year ago after he was caught talking/texting my cousin's wife behind my back. Our entire marriage, my husband has displayed many narcissistic traits. He seeks constant attention from people outside the marriage to the point of putting me down. To date, he says he hasn't looked at porn or talked to other women. I know this might sound trivial, but he texted everyone in my family Happy Thanksgiving, but ignored me. He texts my family members, men, and doesn't mention it. I don't even know his work schedule, days off. It seems to me that he's still living his double life. If I'm having a bad day and not engaging him, he ignores me. There's no intimacy. Is it possible to change this?
It is possible for you to change what you're going through with help and support. If you believe what your husband's saying or you don't believe what your husband's saying, but you're in a turmoil of what you're seeing. Remember, addiction is filled with lies and manipulation if you're active in it. And I'm not saying that he is lying or manipulating. He could be honest about looking at porn. That's another good piece to bring up is there's a lot of couples in which if my partner is looking at porn, then I want to know why not me? Why not be talking to me? Why not be sharing that with me? Again, it's a split in that intimate. And one of the biggest issues around sex addiction or sex love relationship addiction, whatever you want to call it, is that people are seeking intensity versus intimacy. And they may be completely in love with you, but they're looking for that intensity that is not real. It's intensive physically, it may be intensive in the addiction, but it's not intimacy. So I don't know how to answer you as to whether he's doing anything or not doing anything, but there's people that he can talk to. There are people that you can talk to. And also, again, I'm going to say a support group of some type so that you can help take care of yourself until you figure out what's going on. And I know that may sound a little nebulous, but it's you don't know at this point in time, but your gut tells you there is something, and you've had that in the past. So I understand that's part of a betrayal that's there.
Yeah. First and foremost, good for you to be on, this group and asking questions and seeking support. I hope you're taking advantage of the other groups. We've got some for female betrayed partners that are excellent. Although with your name, you could be male. We have one for male betrayed partners too, if you're male.
There you go.
Karen hit it on the head. Addictions are about intensity, not intimacy. As addicts, I'm a sex addict, and sex addicts, I think, are particularly guilty of this. We fear the vulnerability that creates intimacy. We are afraid of how you will respond to us. So we don't give you the chance to respond to us. It's much easier for us to reach out to somebody with whom we have no intimacy to get our need for validation met than it is to reach out to somebody who actually loves and cares about us. Because you scare us.
Right.
That stinks for you, and it stinks for us because we never actually get our needs truly met. And when we become miserable enough, we'll seek recovery.
Or miserable enough or caught in some way where, the boundary is set. You have to get help with this. I'll always go back to the needs of a child. The needs of a child are very simple. They need to be loved. They need to be taken care of, like food and shelter and things like that. They need to know that they can be heard and somebody's going to listen and not yell at them if they show an emotion or a feeling. Many times what I see with addictions, and I am an addict in recovery, I can say that. So what I see is that we become so closed off as a child, so afraid. We may be imitating the grown-ups or those big people, the giant people, in their behaviors. We learn how to interact with people many times based off what we saw when we grew up. So if I'm in an abusive situation, then that may seem normal to me. I know it sounds strange, but if that's all you see, as a child, it may become that's normal until you find out as an adult, no, it's not okay and it's not right. So I think the childhood piece is always a place that we also look at to see what their world looked like, what they were taught, and why people have changed to go down this path that they're going down. There's a reason that people are escaping to intensity. And I love what Scott said. I may want to be very connected. I may believe I love you. But when I let you get really close to me, my fear is if you see me, if you see my heart and my soul, then you may reject me. You may see something that I think about myself, like I'm a horrible person inside. And I don't want you to see that part of me, so I keep it protected and sometimes push people away because they have become too close and my fear is too great that once again, somebody will judge me or reject me. Does that make sense with you, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Rob talks about that in his Out of the Doghouse book, which is a book about betrayal. And in the healing process, he actually talks about, like a sex addict is a lot more likely to become honest and intimate with his sponsor and his therapist and his buddies in recovery before he gets back and becomes honest with his significant other. because those other people don't pose the emotional threat. And, you know, the addict will need to learn that it's okay to be vulnerable with somebody who doesn't threaten them. And then, you know, and then you work your way up to the most important person in your life, which hopefully is your spouse or your partner. So there's a whole section on that in Out of the Doghouse if people are interested.
It's very important book. But hopefully that helps to explain some things. It's always scary and fearful to step into a healthy relationship because you're making commitments to one another. You are becoming very vulnerable to another human being that could easily rip your heart out. That's the best way I can put it. And then I don't want to go there again. And we make that promise to ourselves. Or we've been hurt in other ways many times. So that vulnerability place is a part that I believe a lot of the betrayed partners, spouses, or family members of an addict, is they have been vulnerable. And someone acts out in their behaviors with another person or whatever they're doing. And that's where the betrayal came in, is I shared my soul with you and you pushed me away. So I was vulnerable and told you everything I could about me at that time, and you pushed me away, which then can reverse and me thinking that, you know, I'm still that same person. I'm not good enough. And that's where I hope nobody has to go. That's why I want them to be able to get support. So you are empowered. Be an empowered spouse or partner to be able to say, I'm okay. I have my things and I need some help and some support, but I'm not acting out. And have a voice. Maybe you didn't have one growing up. Maybe you haven't had one in your relationship. And it's time to become empowered and have a voice and be able to ask for what you need and not be abused or pushed aside or any of those kind of things, because that easily can happen in relationships, whether somebody's using or not. We hear those stories every day. And it doesn't mean that because somebody is using, the other person is going to be physically abused, though that can happen. It means that definitely their heart and their soul is going to be abused. It's more mental and emotional abuse, but it's traumatic.
Karen, let's back up a minute and to kind of the immediate aftermath of discovery, and talk about how the betrayed partner may manifest symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, the emotional roller coaster. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah, the roller coaster. What I always try to explain to either side, especially if I have a client sitting in front of me, is your spouse or partner. It's sort of I'm going to use my hand on this one because I'm pretty visual, is I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. I love you, I hate you. They love you. They have loved you for 26 years. But right now, they hate what you have done. They hate what you have done to you and their behaviors, and it's all confusing. So it may show up in anxiety increase, depression, anger, frustration. People may withdraw and isolate because they don't know what to do. Trauma can cause startle response. It can cause memories to come back of prior traumas, that all of a sudden you're having these other memories that are coming up from something else that happened in your life, and traumas can string on to one another. So that's why I say a lot of people will say, I think I've gone crazy. No, you're not. You're not crazy. You're traumatized and you're hurt. And that's where help can come into play, is to help let you pull those things apart. So when you're talking to a spouse or partner that's acting out an addiction of any type, one, you're talking to somebody that's in the middle of acting out, so they're not all present. Their head is still not present. It's not really connected to their heart and their soul at that point in time. You're the one, you're looking at this blank stare like, I didn't do that. And it happened. believe in what you know, believe in yourself, because if they're not ready to tell you that yet, you still know inside you were right with that. But that's the roller coaster, and that will go on after somebody has sought help and support, whether it's the addict or whether it's the partner or spouse. Is there still going to be a roller coaster? Again, I know, in Rob's book on the doghouse, one of the things that we teach everybody as a client is, y'all may be getting along, I'm sorry, I'm from Tennessee, okay? Y'all may be getting along with one another, and all of a sudden had a great weekend, went somewhere, you think you're getting it back on track, and a memory pops up. It could be a billboard sign, it could be a TV show, and all of a sudden back in your head again, back in your gut, you're going back on that roller coaster again. It's much like a grief and loss cycle. It takes steps to go through, and sometimes we spin in that, because in trauma there's also grief and loss. I've lost my trust. I don't know what to believe in. So depression, anxiety, the anger can keep coming back again until some work has been done to help smooth that out. But it doesn't mean it's going to stay forever, but it doesn't mean it's going to go away quickly. So that's where the addict is taught to understand, to be patient, work recovery, be in recovery, talk recovery, walk recovery, act recovery. You have to be able to prove your trust, your faithfulness, your everything to the person that you love or that you have betrayed. Otherwise, they're not going to believe you. I have to see it. I have to look in your eyes, and I have to know. So if you're going to be 5 minutes late coming home and you've been out with people and been late coming home, you need to call. Don't forget. It's not somebody who's tracking you. It's because they're used to a pattern that led up to them understanding that something was going on and they were being betrayed. And it's not something you just get over. And you never tell anybody, just get over it. No. It's a process for both sides to work through, whether it's an addiction or whether it's the betrayal side. And there's not a time limit with it. I see people heal fast. I see people heal take years to heal. But as long as they're moving in that direction, then it's positive steps together, and their intimacy hopefully is growing.
And just so the addicts know, that process, even if it's fast, it will not be as fast as you think it should be. It will go at your partner's pace, not yours. So just be prepared for that. And also understand that, your betrayed partner came into this with traumas that you have nothing to do with. Maybe, your partner's father left when he or she was 8 years old, and there's abandonment issues, and and your betrayal is gonna trigger that. You're getting yelled at for things you didn't do, but that's fine. I mean, this is your significant other, and you take your significant other as that person is. And you want to talk about that, Karen? Yeah.
And that's very common, is that it's such a mixed bag of what's going on emotionally and mentally with someone. It's very hard to break that ball of yarn apart and look at every piece, because things are coming up from all over. Just as somebody that's in their addiction. What's the cause? Why? I know what got me to this place, but I need to know the why that got me here, so that I can learn how to change behaviors, how to watch for triggers that may set me off in that direction or lead me into another addictive pattern of behavior. So it's very important that they receive and understand what led them to the place they're in at that point in time. That's very important for healing. And again, you can find it in webinars, you can find it 12-step, you can find it, in treatment, you can find it wherever you need to go, so that you understand inside what's going on. I'm very used to hearing, I didn't have any trauma. Good, my family was just fine. Well, in fact, once they start looking at it, things started early on, and their life just grew and grew and grew from that point and put them in the place they are today. So that's why there's support around it and help around understanding what got you there, and understanding it could have been from something that happened, regardless, could have happened a year ago and set everything off. But we want to understand that and help the clients with it. It's very important. It's important for the partner or spouse, as Scott was saying. It's going to bring up your own things that you may have thought you tucked away and everything was safe and fine, and you're adult and it should be gone. One thing can trigger a memory that you have and can set it off. I'm not saying you're going to become an addict, but I'm saying that it adds to the disturbance inside, and it brings back those feelings and emotions that you had before that you were not able to tell anybody about.
Yeah, betrayal pokes the old scab.
Yes, it does.
Whatever they are, it'll poke them. This is a question here. When I express concerns about my cheating partner not sharing or being vulnerable, he only responds by saying, "I'm not doing anything behind your back. I can't have a conversation with him about anything." He rolls his eyes, pulls his hair, sighs, you name it, totally invalidating my feelings. How long after he is so-called sober will this behavior end? You would think he would be grateful that I haven't thrown him out. Shows none.
Well, I have a question back that obviously may not be able to be answered. Sometimes while people have completed work around their acting out behavior, whatever that is, they may be continuing to work with their therapist or sponsor, whoever it is, to be laying out the truth, laying out everything that they can think of that has occurred, or behaviors that they may have had in another pattern, or things that have happened to them. And many times you will hear someone say, do not discuss these things at this point in time. You never want to have a spouse, partner, or loved one given what we refer to as a dribble of a disclosure. Those are damaging to be blurting out one thing and then hoping that the partner or spouse that'll satisfy them. No, we work with couples all the time to help them learn what their truth is first, to make sure that they're not leaving anything out of it. And then there are therapists that very definitely are qualified to do a disclosure process with that. But it's when the disclosure process is ready for both people, and not to come out in I call them the bomb drops. Is I'm on the phone and I want to tell you that, I'm really sorry. I need to tell you and be honest, I did this. Well, what I would say to a person that I'm sitting across from is, you just dropped a bomb. You just laid open something that the loved one there may have nobody to help them, may not be around them. They don't know what to do with the information, and you probably feel better because you said it. Your intention may have been right, but it's not the way that disclosure process goes. And it needs to be where it's complete, and as much as someone knows and they're ready to be honest with it all, and with support in doing it, not together alone, but to do it with people that can help guide you through that process. There's a lot of devastation that can come from a disclosure that was not handled in the right way. And that's why I tell people, no dribbles, no drabs, no nothing, no feel like you shared something really important, because that person is not ready to hear one piece. They want to know the whole thing. And you've got to work toward being ready on both sides to hear some things. Now, that's not everyone that's sitting out there. There may be one thing that someone's done, and that's it. There may be 100 things, but you want to know the truth. That's what you're looking for, so that you can help to move forward in a relationship, or decide you don't want to stay in that relationship. You want truth because you've been lied to.
Yeah, there's a great book coming out in probably January from Stephanie Carnes about the disclosure process.
Mhm.
So if you can wait another month and you want to learn more about disclosure, I would highly recommend Dr. Carnes's book.
Mhm.
Um,
And go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott.
I also wanted to point out that in the question it says, how long after he is so-called sober will this behavior end? And the fact that you're saying so-called sober suggests to me that your gut is telling you his version of sobriety is not your version of sobriety. And you think there's much more going on. So
I agree.
trust your gut.
Or it could be that I'm still in this really scared zone. I'm still feeling that trauma. It's very real and alive. That's why some people are not together immediately at that point. They may be moving toward that and moving toward being honest and open with one another. So it could be that you feel like there's something going on. It could be the remnants of or the leftover from the initial trauma that keeps you on guard. I mean, you have a right to be on guard. You have a right to wonder, is it so-called sobriety? Is the person still acting out? Are they still getting angry? And was anger a part of the addictive process, or is there something else that they've had going on before? So it's looking at the whole picture, and but using the word so-called, I understand that, and I agree with what Scott's saying. It sounds as if you really don't know yet, or you're still in the process of trying and wanting to believe that something is different and changed. And hopefully that's what that's coming from. And that in time, you will have the answers you need to have, and you'll be strong enough to know that. But still, it's checking yourself out of what am I really thinking, and what's the trauma response that's still occurring for me.
Okay, let's go into another question here. This individual is 6 months post-separation from her sex addiction husband. Divorce is in process. She's done a lot of work on herself. She's having a hard time accepting the fact that he just doesn't care about what he has caused and keeps pressuring for a quick divorce. Checking her expectations always leads her to what he said versus what he did. How long does the grieving take when the addict doesn't care about anything but himself? Will there ever be any closure if he doesn't actually get into recovery?
Well, I'm trying to think about how to answer that question. One, if a separation and a divorce is in process and all of that is going on, then there has to be a place. The question I think back would be, are you waiting for him to come back? Hoping that things will change? Where are you in the process of the separation? Is the person still acting out? Is there an affair partner that's still there? There's a whole lot of questions that go on. When and how long does it take? I don't know your husband or soon-to-be ex-husband. I don't know what his mental health history is or what his behavior looks like to give you an answer. I know that there's no time frame that I could look at you and be honest and tell you, oh, it's all going to be okay, in this period of time. I do wonder, if there's children involved, and that's why you all have to be connected and interacting with one another. I don't know that answer either, but I can't give anyone an answer of how long that grief and loss process takes, because there is no answer for that. It's a personal answer for each person as they move toward healing. It's not just going to disappear. You're going to still feel some pain, and especially if you have to be around the ex-partner that you've had.
I'm muted.
Oh, okay. I was looking like, I don't hear you, Scott.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, Karen, in a lot of relationships where there's cheating,
Mm-hmm.
it is the presenting crisis, but there are other underlying relationship issues. The couple doesn't communicate well. Maybe I think I do too much work and you don't do enough. And
Right.
when in the process of healing, let's say the couple does love each other, they both say, they want to stay together, they want to do the work. When do you address the presenting crisis of the betrayal, the addiction, versus some of the underlying issues that most couples would go to couples counseling for if
Right.
it's a real problem?
And to add to that, one of the biggest things that I see is I may be in a relationship with another person, but the two people don't know how to communicate with one another. They may think they're communicating, but they don't know a healthy way to communicate. So when you're rebuilding, when you're looking at this, the crisis is still there, but if they're seeking couples therapy and couples support like that from whoever it is that they're working with, then they're also going to be or will be looking at, how do you talk to one another? How do you share that I'm hurt? How do I share what I'm thinking? And I've had many couples that'll tell me, I don't think we ever shared. After there was a crisis, after there was an intervention of some type, and both people received some help, honestly, I've had couples come back and go, this is better than I ever thought it could be. I don't think I was really ever married because we never talked with one another. We were together and we would have sex together, but we weren't sharing who we are with one another. So that, if it hasn't been occurring, is a rebuilding process and relearning process. And we do incorporate those things in when you have a couples program or couples therapy or things like that, is what are better ways of communication? What are ways of communication? And to make sure that both people are sharing and listening, and not just one person monopolizing the whole conversation or speaking for one another. So it's a process of learning, because people are not always taught that. I'll go back to, what did you learn growing up? What did you learn throughout other relationships in your life? And just because we're adults does not mean we know how to communicate well. Within an organization, a company, you find many times, what's the problem? Communication. So we're human beings, and I believe that process occurs from the very beginning, because they have to be able to express themselves and what's going on with them, to work with the communication, and to help be directed as to how to improve that so they can work together. Is that the type of question you were asking?
Yeah, I mean, what's the timing on that?
Whether they're living together or not living together, because sometimes people do the separation thing. Sometimes people live in a different part of a house. They've got an agreement of no sexual interaction with one another. Boundaries are set. There's a lot of healthy things that are occurring. When I work with a couple in front of me, I'm working with the communication piece while I'm working with the couple itself, because I need both of them to be talking to one another and not have one frozen and the other one doing the talking. They need to be able to start learning at that point how to share and communicate effectively and in a healthy way with one another, whether they're angry, sad, mad, whatever it is to start that communication training while they're in process of doing the couple's work afterwards. So, and then if people get angry during the time because it's still a trauma situation, then it's sort of like calling a timeout for a minute. It's like, take a break, let's stop. If you need to go outside for a minute, chill down, come back, or we set a different time to pick it back up again. Because it's okay to have to regroup inside, because there's so much pain there. And there may be pain on both sides. I know that if someone is going to be in recovery and they want to stay, then there's usually shame, guilt, and remorse that's there. So I'm not, that's not the same as the betrayed spouse that's in a trauma place, but the other person is also having these feelings come up, and they may pull back and not say anything because their shame is so great. So I work with them right at the beginning. I have to have them being able to talk, not yell and scream, but to talk with one another. And that's where many times it's important to have a therapist come into play, or people that are trained working with couples to be able to do that. And again, it can be a therapist that works with couples and they work with individuals, but somebody to help that process, because that's got to be part of healing, or part of a decision that you're not going to stay together, is to be able to communicate that.
Thank you. Let's switch the focus to the addict for a minute. I know we've got some questions here, but I think it's important to hit this one. What can an addict do to help rebuild relationship trust and to help heal the relationship? What are some concrete things that the addict should be doing?
One is stop the lying, stop the manipulation, because it's probably so ingrained. Like we talked, addicts will lie and manipulate. That's what we do to keep our addiction closest to us, is we don't want to be found out, so we're lying and manipulating. So the first one is, I know it may sound cornball, but the first one is, I always tell everybody to pause. It doesn't mean the addict is lying because they stop. Now, I'm saying this person has been doing work. This person is working toward recovery. But in the past, they may have paused because they're trying to make up a lie or manipulate a situation. Sometimes I'm asking people to slow their brains down and pause and not come from their head. Their head is a thought and an action. I want them to come from their heart and their soul and be able to tell their truth, so there can be a pause while they're reconnecting and then being able to give the honest answer out there. The best thing an addict can do is tell the truth. I love a saying that I've heard it for many years, and I will say, Dr. Rob has ingrained it in me, and it makes the most sense. Tell the truth and tell it faster. And that means if you're working with your sponsor or your therapist, tell the truth and tell it faster. It's not going to do you any good to keep lying. It's not going to do you good to keep the secrets in, because that's just going to try to move you to another area of medicating those secrets. So in a coupleship or for an addict, the best thing is to start learning and practicing the coping skills of how do you ground yourself. If you have anxiety going on, what to do with the anxiety, and that could be your therapist, that could be a doctor, that could be whoever you need to see to help that. The depression part, but the biggest piece is to live what you are learning to live as a person in recovery. Show it every step of the way. And if a lie does come out, tell the truth and tell it faster, because then it will keep it from another lie tying in and tying in. And that's the most honest answer I can give you, is you have to change that pattern of trying to keep hiding everything till you get so confused you fall over yourself because you don't remember what you said. And that adds in with using. The same thing. If you have slipped in using something, tell the truth. Call your sponsor, call your support group, tell somebody immediately, hey, this is what happened, so you don't give yourself permission to continue and keep going out there and doing it over and over and over again. That's a freedom of recovery.
Yeah, I would add to that, become accountable for what you did in the past and for what you're doing today. Stop blaming your partner for causing you to cheat. Nobody caused you to cheat. You decided to cheat.
Right.
And then your betrayed partner wants to know that you understand that. So make it clear, I made a terrible decision. It wasn't your fault. all those nasty things I said to you had nothing to do with my cheating, because addicts will say, oh, you gained 10 pounds, or you don't pay enough attention to me, or your cooking is whatever.
Yeah.
They blame the poor partner, and it's not the partner's fault.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right. Now, there may be issues that we talked about, like communication, that it has not been a healthy relationship with one another, or they don't know how to communicate effectively with one another. Now, that's again, is that a fault or a blame on the addict or the spouse or partner? No. It's something that you may not have learned, and you need to understand and learn it and be able to use those tools. So it's not blaming. Well, you didn't tell me this. You didn't that. Well, maybe I didn't understand it. Okay. So it's those things that have been there in a relationship or have been lacking in a relationship. Again, it doesn't mean it's somebody's fault. It doesn't mean the addict did it or the partner did it. It just means that those are things of what a healthy, intimate relationship looks like. And I don't know of anybody that teaches that to us in school or growing up or anything like that. Unfortunately, it's what people have to learn in situations like this is, what does it really look like? Or you learn from what you're reading and what you're hearing.
Karen, thank you. We are out of time.
Really? Wow.
No, these always go fast. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and everybody stuck with us. This is a tough discussion to talk about betrayal trauma. It's tough to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough to hear about. It's tough to think about. It's painful. And everybody stuck with us tonight, which I think says we needed to have this conversation.
Yeah. It felt right. And the thing I always want to add for anybody is, if you have any feelings or things feel different inside and you're escalated or you're concerned or you're whatever, please reach out to somebody, because we may have said things that have triggered something in your life or your past or whatever. I don't care who you are. I don't care whether you're an addict or you're in recovery or you're a partner, spouse, or family member. If something is coming up for you, please reach out to somebody so that you don't have to be pacing around or going into an area you don't want to go into right now. Seek support. Just call somebody and say, hey, I heard these people on this webinar talking about this, and I think that's me. It's okay to ask for help. Please do so if anything has come up that has triggered you. Talk to someone, okay? I wish y'all well. I really do.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody. We'll see. David will be back. Are you going to be back next week, or is David coming next week? Do we know?
I think David's coming this week.
Okay. We'll have David back.
I haven't heard that he wasn't. So, anticipation is made a song out of that. So there we go. Okay. Y'all take care.
Good night, everybody. Have a good evening. See you, Karen.
See ya, Scott.